What's happening, Internet fam? So, the other day I made a big mistake and I posted a Linux Mint 19.3 demo, but in fact it was not Linux Mint 19.3, it was Linux Mint 19.2, the one that's been out for 6 months. And I'm sorry, it was an honest mistake, but now I've got Linux Mint 19.3, the beta, which just came out like 3 days ago, running, and it is fantastic. And I want to show you that. I'm of course using the COMPIZ cube, which I always use. Here's the COMPIZ settings as usual. I really want to update the default COMPIZ settings. CLEM, if you watch this video, please let me update the COMPIZ settings so that the default is something a little bit better and more modern than the one from like the late 90s or whatever you're currently using. Because honestly, it runs great, it's fantastic, but the default settings are not that great, and people aren't even going to see the power of COMPIZ because they're not going to know about it. Because most people don't go around and fiddle with the settings like I do. So anyway, yeah, CLEM, please let me change the default COMPIZ settings for you out of the box for the mate distribution of Linux Mint. So let me show you some of the things that are running. Again, I'm using OBS. This is from the PPA, so that's what I'm using to record this. So again, though, I'm a pretty serious nerd. Most people aren't even going to play with this, but gamers are using OBS to Twitch stream and YouTube stream and stuff, and it works super fantastic. It works great on Windows and Linux. Obviously, I'm using Linux right now. Here's my stats right now. Recording this video, I'm using 90% of the video engine, 41% of the GPU, very little of the video memory though. And you can see the CPU is just hardly even being used, and the memory is hardly being used either. And this is running a ton of apps, as I'm going to go show you right now. Of course, it's got Firefox built in, and this is version 19.3 Trisha, the mate version, the beta release. And Firefox works absolutely fantastically, as you would expect. Everything just loads, everything works great. There's Google. Here's my YouTube, which you're watching right now. So it's like you're watching my YouTube on my YouTube. Huh? How meta is that? And Firefox is great. You can also install a version of Chrome called Chromium. You can also install the Brave browser. There's a lot of great apps. Most of these, I'm going to show you most of the default apps now. They've made a controversial decision here to use this program called Drawing instead of the GIMP by default. Now you can still install the GIMP from the repos or the software manager or from Synaptic. I mean, there's 3 different ways to install the GIMP. Very quick and easy. But there's a couple of things. I think that the Drawing is a better idea as a default app because you want something simple like this. But what's weird is you can't scroll. There's no control zoom here. Now I can control zoom with COMPIZ, but that gives me the COMPIZ zoom, which is not the same as the control scroll that you want. And also, why isn't the picture centered? There's just a lot of weird little wonky things about this new Drawing program here. This is what it's called, Drawing. But great start, and honestly, I do think this is a good alternative to the GIMP for most users who may not want a full-fledged Photoshop replacement, which is what the GIMP is, of course. I'm going to add myself back here. I do have a little bit of flickering OBS. I played with that earlier, tried to fix it, but couldn't. I'll play with it some more and maybe I'll have it fixed on the next video. This is LibreOffice Writer. It is included by default. I like LibreOffice Writer better than I like Microsoft Word. It's got this better interface instead of the stupid ribbon. It's got this like really useful thing. Now, one criticism I have of both LibreOffice and Microsoft Word is that there's no columns button. There should be a columns button right here where you select columns. So I don't know. I'm just going to throw that complaint out to the universe. Maybe it fixes something, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But why can't you just select multiple columns? Because I use 2 columns all the time for stuff. Anyway, that's the LibreOffice Writer. And again, all this is running already, and I'm hardly using any memory, any RAM, any CPUs. This is LibreOffice Calc, pretty much a drop-in replacement for Microsoft Excel. I like it better than Excel. Again, instead of the stupid ribbon, you've got this. I don't have any complaints about Calc. I love Calc. I think it's great. No issues at all for that for me. This is Audacious. Now, I've installed Audacious from the software manager or from from apt or Synaptic or from the repos, But I like Audacious better than Rhythmbox, which comes by default. Here's Rhythmbox. I'll go ahead and, I haven't opened Rhythmbox before, but let's go ahead and open it so you can see that too. Here's Rhythmbox. Rhythmbox works great. It does have some more options over here on the left. Last FM, Libra FM, radio podcast, whatever. But for me, it's just a little bit busy, and I prefer Audacious personally. And again, look at all this stuff I'm running. And I'm utilizing, less than 20% of my CPU and less than an eighth of my RAM. I mean, that's crazy, but that's Linux for you, right? It's just a lot better, obviously, than Windows anyway. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. Besides Audacious, which I have installed, there's also Time Shift. This is a really great backup utility. It works pretty much exactly like the old Mac version from a few years back. It is just a great app that really works really well for backing up all your files. And it's such a great tool that I recommend beginner users and people who aren't advanced computer users to switch to Linux Mint just for this tool alone. I mean, especially when you're coming from the Windows side, because Windows doesn't really have a good backup tool, in my opinion, not compared to Time Shift. Solitaire, this I've installed from the repos. This is called IL Riot. So, and again, you can get this straight from the software manager, which is right here. I haven't opened the software manager yet because I never use it. I always apt install everything from the command line, which I can show you what that looks like if you want. Let's see, so sudo apt install. What else do we want to apt install? I think I already apt installed everything that I like. I guess we could do, let's try Pale Moon. Is that? No package for Pale Moon. I do like the Pale Moon browser. It's kind of an alternative to Firefox that works great. But anyway, here's the software manager, and you can install Minecraft just right from the repos. Just that easy. GIMP is a big one. Cheese is a webcam program. There's a few things that I wish were in here that weren't. OBS being a big one. This is OBS that I'm using to record this right now, and OBS is amazing. OBS should be right front and center in here, and it isn't. Some of these other things that are front and center are kind of a curious choice. I don't really like Dropbox, for example. That's this weird corporate product. It would be way cooler, in my opinion, to have OwnCloud or something like that. Blender is great. FileZilla is great. VirtualBox, again, a proprietary one. It is a lot better than most of the options, though. Side note, if any of you know a good virtualization solution for Linux that's open source, Virt Manager for me has never worked well. There's always some kind of permissions hell, and I don't know if it's just Linux Mint. I've tried it in some other distributions as well, but I never find that Virt Manager works as well as VirtualBox, for example. And I'm a big fan of VirtualBox, except for the fact that it's proprietary, which it kind of is a drag. Anyway, this is a software manager, super great. Millions of games, millions of all kinds of stuff in here, and it just really works well. Solitaire, this is Spider Solitaire. It comes by default, IL Riot comes by default playing the regular Solitaire, so if you want the regular Solitaire, you got it. I like Spider Solitaire, it's a little bit more challenging. But yeah, so this is it. This is Linux Mint. I think it's awesome. It's been awesome for a long time. I think the new beta is super awesome too. This is Linux Mint 19.3. It is super polished. They've done a lot of little weird things to make it even more polished. They've got better little icons like this little, they call this the washing machine icon. And the new grub menu is a lot better as well. So when you first boot up, it's just like a lot more easy to use. I think it might be the best operating system I've ever used. 19.3 Mate version of Linux Mint might be the best operating system I've ever used. It's a beta that's only 3 days old. It's still in development. It hasn't been released. I would really, please, CLEM, please let me send you a better default COMPIZ config, because the default COMPIZ config as it comes is garbage. It just is. It's just absolute garbage. Please let me send you a new one. And now I'm going to show you something that is pretty much the Windows killer in my opinion, and that is that all the Steam games work really well. So let me just clean up this desktop a little bit. So you see I have Grand Theft Auto 5, I've got Civilization 5, and one of my personal favorites, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now this is going to take a minute to load, but I'm going to go ahead and start it and let you see what that looks like. And it just really works really well. It did for me earlier. Looks like it's going to work this time as well. Virtually no issues with this, and I've got a real controller, so I can really play. Hopefully this audio isn't too loud for you, or hopefully my talking isn't too loud. I don't know. I haven't really. I did no test run. I just went for it. So we'll see how this works and see whether or not this looks good or not. Let's go get a car real quick, because this game is not that fun until you get a car. Oh, I just missed a motorcycle. Oh, let's get the lowrider, shall we? Yeah. Let's steal this one, huh? Let's see if it's got hydraulics. Oh, it's got hydraulics even. Look at me rolling with the hydraulics. Yeah. Okay. Let's go blast on some balas, huh? Yeah. This game is so good. I think this game is so much more fun. Uh-oh. Run, CJ, run. Should we steal the cop bike? Let's go steal the cop bike. Oh, he's too fast for me. Dang it. I finally get some people watching my YouTube video and I'm playing poorly. I apologize for that. But you know, the reality is I'm not really much of a gamer. I more do systems administration and stuff, so. Let's change channels, huh? What do we got here? Let's just turn the radio off so I don't get any copyright violations. So yeah, almost all the Steam games that I've tried play perfectly in here. And I mean, you know, especially some of these old ones, there's just no issue with the frame rates at all. Let's see. This van is slow, but you know what? There's some balas. So let's go ahead and get those balas. Yeah, let's get them. Boom. Gotta love San Andreas. Anyway, yeah, and oh, sorry about that. So, and all of this works pretty much perfectly, and I'm recording a video right now. And as you can see over here, I mean, I am using some of my graphics card now, but you know, oh, I'm not even in the right screen here. I am using some of the graphics card now, but look at, even with all this going, including San Andreas running in the background, I'm hardly using anything on this computer. Linux Mint 19.3, the main version. CLEM, please let me give you a better default COMPIZ config. I've begged in the last like 5 or 6 versions of Mint to let me upgrade the COMPIZ config. Now, it doesn't have to be as radical and extreme as mine, although I don't think this is that radical and extreme. It's very easy to use and very fun, and I think this would radically improve everybody's productivity across the whole world if we could include it by default. So anyway, that's it for me today, Internet fam. Linux Mint 19.3, it's coming. It's still in beta right now. Linux Mint 19.2 was absolutely rock solid. Loved it. 19.3 is just that little bit better. All the little cleanups of the icons, little cleanups of Grub, the improvements, all that stuff. Huge. It's gorgeous. It's fast. It's free. It has everything you need right out of the box. Yeah, other than the few default apps, which I disagree with. Again, I prefer Audacious to Rhythmbox. It should have OBS in the repos. I don't know why it doesn't have OBS in the repos. And again, I'd really like to see a better virtualization solution, one that's actually open source rather than VirtualBox. Although VirtualBox runs great and it works great, and it's right there in the software manager, so can't really complain that much. Couple other things. BSNES is missing, the Super Nintendo emulator. Not in the repos, not in the software manager. You can get Heigen, but Heigen doesn't perform nearly as well as BSNES does. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's still some things to fix here, but overall, absolutely fantastic. And if you don't know the story, I've had my mom on Linux Mint for like 8 years now, and she will not upgrade her little 10-year-old laptop because it runs so well. And Mom, if you watch this, please buy a new laptop. Let me put the new version of Mint on it. It works even better than the old one. All right, Internet fan, that's it for me. Have a great night. Happy holidays, by the way.